I'm using Python 3 for this video. You can use the online compilers that are available, or you can also download the appropriate Python version from the python.org website, and then you can use that. In this video, I'm gonna talk about some basic terms that any person who is learning to code will need to know. So the first one is data. So as we all know, data is basically information, and it can be in any form. So the common forms that we see is either numbers or words or characters. So when we talk about numbers, the numbers could be integers or it could be decimal points. So all the positive and negative numbers, like including zero, so 0, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, all of these are called integers. Okay, and then if you have decimal points like 0 0.8, -9.45, all of these are called float. These are called floating point values. The data type specific to Python is float. And then you could have any thing like this. For example, this is referred to as a string. Strings are basically any type of data which is enclosed within quotation marks like this. So instead of words, it could be numbers. It will still be considered as a string as long as it's within quotation marks. So these are all the different types of data. And the next one, variable, is basically a place which is going to hold information. So it's like analogous to the example of lockers. Whenever you use lockers, you keep your item inside a locker. You note down the locker number or the locker name, anything to remember the locker address, right? So then you can store something inside your locker. When you come back, you can remove that item and you can put another item in the locker and reuse the locker any number of times. Similarly, in a variable, you can create a variable and it can hold any value that you want, and every time you can change the value that is stored in that particular variable. Okay, and of course there are some rules and naming conventions that we need to follow while using variables, and I'll talk about that in a later video. So for now, let's just take a equal to 5, for example. Then in a equal to 5, a is your variable and 5 is the number that we are storing in the variable called a. So let me just put that. So now when we try to print a, or if you're just using a interpreter like this, you could just directly put a and click on enter and you'll get 5. So the value stored in a is 5. Now if I say a equal to 10, and now if I check what is there in a, then you notice that there is no more 5 and the 5 has been replaced by 10. So if I put a equal to a cat now, and then again check what's happening to the value of a, now the 10 has been replaced by another value which is the cat. So you could store any value you want inside your variables, and you have to remember that every time you store a value in the variable, the previous value will be lost. Okay, so that's something key that you need to know. The third topic we're going to talk about is data types. I actually spoke about this earlier. Data type, so we know that data now has different formats like integer, float, string, boolean, etc. So depending on what value you're storing in your variable, you can then give it a specific data type. So if I say a equal to 10, so I'm essentially storing an integer value in my variable a. So I can use the function type and then put a. So type of a function will tell me what is the type of the variable a. So it is telling me that it is of type integer. Similarly, now if I say b equal to 10.5, and then I can again check the type of b. You see, this is a decimal point and hence it's giving me the value as the type as a float. And now if I say c equal to a cat, and then just check the type of this, it gives a str. Str is the short form for string. So these are the different common data types that you will need to know as you're starting to learn Python. Later on we can explore other types as well. Boolean. Boolean is basically just taking in two values, either true or false. So for example, if I just give it as d equal to true, and then check the type of d, this is bool, short form for boolean. So these four types of data are important to know before you start any further. And so the variables here are a, b, c, d. Variables are basically places where you can store information. Depending on what information you're storing, each variable will have a different data type. So in some programming languages, you will have to specify the data type while you're creating variables, but in Python you don't have to specify the data type, and it will automatically take the data type of the variable to be the depending on what you're storing inside the variable. That brings us to the end of this video. We've learned about data types and variables, and we will look into more details about variables in the coming videos.